Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another Bogan-filled episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 270, recorded on Sunday, June 7th, 2020. Tonight we're talking about yet another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Nicole, and the movie is Dark Knight of the Scarecrow from 1981. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Oregon, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Man, you sound more and more like Rage Cat every single week. I don't know what it is.
Well, I've been injecting THC directly into my veins every hour. So,
when in Oregon, am I right?
Yeah, you gotta live as the Oregonians too. I guess I don't know how that ends. I'm high.
Randy is so green in more than one way. Last but not least on the show, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, Mang?
What up? It's your boy, the one true Stains. I have returned. Appreciate all of my followers and all of the support I got while I was away. I have come back for you. I did see that hashtag Hard with Soju was trending last week.
Oh, was it trending on your timeline?
There was like
filtered specific ways.
There was one hashtag, BLM. I don't know what that was, and then number 2, Hard with Soju, was right under that one. So
it seems fair to say that both are equal.
The pop-ups were telling me about it this weekend. So,
pop-ups. Were you still on like dial-up? What are you getting? What?
So yes, I am back.
All the chat rooms are talking about this.
That
Instant Messenger is going crazy.
I will not abandon you, all of my loyal supporters.
Hit me up on AIM juice later on. Just send
Let me get that AIM, girl.
To show your support, hit 666 in the local chat room.
I think you mean 696. 696 for Soju.
It's genital to face, genital to face, face to asshole. Is that what I'm hearing? All right.
Face to ass. We all like a big salad. I don't know. I'm not complaining.
No kink shaming here.
No kink shaming. Before we get into the review, let's go ahead and hit up some housekeeping real quick. This is another reminder that the July poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. The theme for July is going to be aquatic horror. If you support us at the $5 level or above over on Patreon, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to be talking about this July. The 3 aquatic horror movies we have chosen for you to vote between are going to be Anaconda, Dagon, and Jaws.
Bob?
Juice.
How those numbers looking so far?
Let me tell ya. Anaconda is besting Jaws by a single vote. Dagon is way on.
See there,
is
Bob?
Anton White voting?
Wait, or maybe it was Randy. Maybe I'm giving Bob shit for no reason. Somebody thought.
I mean, it's always somebody for no reason.
Jaws was going to sweep the board.
Yeah,
Anaconda's hanging in there.
Yeah, Anaconda. I'm kind of rooting for Anaconda.
That would be a fun conversation. So,
yeah.
But we're not advocating.
We also could cover Jaws around 4th of July. I'm just, that's a
4th of July
tradition.
It is. That's very true. We can all drink Narragansett on the show if Jaws wins.
We could also all watch Dagon. That's
maybe
possibility.
eyes. Your ladies of Spain.
Doll's eyes. I think that's all we got going on at Patreon currently. Juice, do you have... Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. Let us go ahead and announce. Let's go ahead and announce real quick. We're going to be reopening the You Pick the Flick tier on Patreon.
Oh, the coveted spaces
That's
of
right.
You Pick the Flick.
We're going to be opening it on Sunday, June 21st at noon EST. So if you have been listening to the show and you're wondering how you can pick a movie for us to review, this is the only way for you to do that. There's only 5 spots available per quarter. So this is going to be our third quarter of the year.
And I assume by the popularity of the show, that cost around a solid $100, $200 per space, right?
No, it is far, far more reasonable than that.
What?
What do you think we are? What do you think we are?
cutting a deal over here? What's the price on those spots?
It's going to be a $15 spot. Pick any movie you want.
God.
We will talk about it.
What a steal.
So
Around here, that means big money.
keep your eyes open for that. Sunday, June 21st at noon EST. That's going to be open. There's only 5 spots for the third quarter of 2020. Make sure you
Don't
grab
sleep
one.
in, G baby.
Looking at you, G
Yeah.
baby. Set
Looking
the
at
alarm
you, G
clock.
baby. Don't.
Leave the snooze button alone, guys.
That's right.
Leave it alone.
On
That's
multiple
right.
occasions, G baby has slept in on the West Coast and missed those spots. They go quick.
They do
Yeah.
go quick.
Actually, I think that's Father's Day. Treat yourself. If you're a dad, get on
Get
there.
your family to invest in straight chilling for your birthday.
Grab your
Hashtag-
wife's credit card, jump onto Patreon, and just load up, baby. Get you that spot. Happy Diddy's Day. All right. So now that's all we got for Patreon. Juice, you got any news?
Last week, a brand new YouTube video was dropped, a new Top 5 Tuesday. And it was talking about my top 5 favorite horror comedy films. So we just did a pick of the month for horror comedies last month. So I figured keep with that trend and talk about some of my favorite horror comedy films. So if you want some extra content from the Straight Chilling crew, you can check us out at youtube.com/Straight Chilling Podcast. And I got some videos dropping on there. Video game reviews, top 5 lists, stuff like that. So yeah, that's the latest on the YouTubes. And that's about it. That's all I got.
Last thing I got is, yet again, big thanks to everybody that was hanging out with us this past Friday for the Joe Bob Live Watch Party. That's something that we host every Friday for the next 3 weeks anyways, until season 2 of The Last Drive-In ends on Shudder. If you want to join, just watch all of our social media outlets. Friday evening around 9 o'clock EST, we're going to drop a link for you to join us over on Zoom for our live watch party. Squad has been deep all season, and big thanks to everybody who has joined. And
Yeah,
we got
I heard some guy named Justin stopped by.
Justin Kyle. Who
Who is
the fuck is that? Probably a porn bot. Probably.
Probably.
That's always been true.
Which apparently exists on Zoom now, and I am super paranoid about letting people into our groups. Like,
Porn bots.
man, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Not just porn bots, but also just dickheads in general.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
just Justin Kyle's floating around doing whatever they
Whoa,
want to
just
do.
floating around. I don't know who
float.
that is.
Yeah, if somebody pops up and their name is like, Misty Weathers, I don't let them in. Sorry, but you're
Be
not getting in.
warned. Be warned, all the Misties of the world.
Misty Weathers.
No
out
Misties
there.
need apply.
You're not watching Joe Bob tonight, Misty. Sorry to say. All right, that's all we got for the housekeeping. Let's go ahead and jump into the main event. We're talking about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, this is from 1981. It was directed by Frank Di Felitta. This was a movie that was straight to TV, made for television.
Hallmark movie.
I don't know about that.
No,
It's
that's
a real
not true.
feel good.
Yeah, it's
Lifetime original.
you don't pop this on around Christmas, that's for sure. It's starring Charles Durning, Robert F. Lyons, Claude Earl Jones, and some other folks.
Lane Smith.
The synopsis is as follows. In a small southern town, a wrongfully killed man exacts revenge on those who murdered him from beyond the grave. Gentle Bangs, have you seen this before? Would you recommend people check it out? Randy?
No, I had not seen this. It's not one that ever, it might have come across my desk at some point or another, but I never watched it. And I would recommend this. I think that this movie has a pretty strong case for being a good Halloween watch. We can get into the kind of like the reasons for that later. Nothing really spoilery, but just to me, it's kind of a good fit for that season. And it's it's a schlocky movie, but it's schlocky in ways that I kind of enjoyed. So I would say yes, generally, but know that this is not a movie that's like gonna take home the Cannes Film Festival award or anything like that. This is certainly a made-for-TV movie, but it's got like more depth than you might imagine for a movie of that kind.
How about the Cannes Film Festival? Will it take
Cannes, the Pecan Film Festival?
Yeah, how about the Pecan?
The Pecan Film Festival certainly gave this an award.
I would not be
Best in
surprised.
show.
The plumpest pig of all. Juice, what about you?
Oh, come on, Juice a pig. Whoa. Whoa.
Talk about the movie.
I didn't know anything about this film, and it was weird though. So here's how I would recommend this film. I found it to be quite a surprisingly solid 80s hidden gem. And the fact that I had never heard of this film, and once I was done with it, I was like, "Hey, wow, that was surprisingly like well done, especially 1981." But then listening last week, shout outs to John from Horrorphoria for showing up and filling in my spot real solid. But he was saying at the end of that, like, "Oh, that scared me," as a kid, like growing up, and I was like, "Okay, well." I don't know how popular like this was for people growing up in the 80s. I don't know. Maybe it was more well known. I didn't know anything about it. I've never really heard anybody talk about it before. So Nicole recommending it and then John saying like, "Oh yeah, that shit scared me as a kid." Like, I don't know, but I would recommend it as a solid 80s hidden gem if you're really big into horror of that like decade.
Right on. Yeah, I'd never seen this one before. I'd seen it laying around, and I was kind of happy when Nicole picked it because it gave me a solid reason to finally watch it.
Wait. When you say lying around, do you mean on your Blu-ray shelf?
No, just like, round town, laying in the gutter.
Is this one of the many pre-purchased before you ever intended to watch it?
No, I bought it specifically because Nicole chose it, and I was like, okay, here we go. Pull the trigger, finally.
You say so.
Finally.
But I
just needed that excuse.
I did.
Somebody
God,
just give me a reason.
I'd seen this on the best horror movies to watch around Halloween time lists before, but I just never watched it. And it's got sort of a Halloween type vibe to it, but it definitely is like made for television, and you can feel that sort of in the bones here. But it definitely is a heavy watch. Like, I was sort of taken aback by how heavy it actually was. Like, within the first 20 minutes, I was already like, clutching my pearls or what have you. It's a little hammy, and, you might not get quite as much of a creature as you might expect given the title of it and the artwork. But it's solid. I liked it for what it was, and it definitely landed a lot heavier than I anticipated in a good way, I think. So I would definitely recommend checking this out. I don't know that I'd necessarily give it like a hearty Halloween recommend, but you could probably just watch this any time of the year, honestly.
Yeah, it's not heavy-handed Halloween. It's no trick or treat, but it's got enough imagery to where it would suit the season as well.
Yeah, I agree. You could definitely watch it around Halloween or pretty much.
You could also watch it any other time, and you'd probably be okay too. Yeah. But I think that I'm going to rewatch it around
Halloween vibes as you guys did.
Really, there was some great number of
pumpkins.
Yeah, there's a lot of pumpkins.
There was?
There's a lot of
Pumpkins.
It actually is set during Halloween, and there's like a Halloween dance too.
There's a Halloween party and everything.
Oh shit! Oh my god! You guys are right. I was
They
like,
don't
what was
lean on it,
Halloween?
though.
Yeah.
So
they
that's
don't.
probably what you're feeling.
I already forgot all about that Halloween party.
Good
Shit,
thing
you're right.
we're
okay.
talking about this movie right now.
Good
Breaking it
thing. Yeah, I mean, mine was the one with Batman rolling around. There was a guy in a Joker mask. I don't know what. I don't remember any Halloween from that one.
All right. Sounds like a pretty solid recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right. Gentlemen, as is my wont the past few weeks,
Yeah,
I
you've
haven't
been on this kick, Bob.
a fully typed out synopsis. It's
Oh, boy.
shorter. It's shorter than the past couple weeks have been. So,
Skip to the end.
yeah, I'll skip to the end pretty quickly on this one. If you'll indulge me, I'll blast through the plot, and then we can just.
I'll
talk about it.
indulge you.
Skip to the end.
Since you're on this trend and you type it out and everything.
No, it's memorized. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. The plot is as follows. Here we go. The film opens with developmentally challenged Bubba playing in a field with young Mara Lee. They are friends who are close in intellect but very different in age. A few townsfolk are suspicious of Bubba and they think he's dangerous, even though there's no real evidence of this. Bubba and Marilee, while playing, happen upon a garden, and Marilee slides between the fence slats to investigate the garden. She's attacked by a dog, and Bubba bursts through the fence to try and save her. We then see that Bubba returns to Marilee's parents' house, holding her lifeless body in his hands. After that, a squad of 4 backwoods locals band together and hunt Bubba down as they are convinced that he killed Marilee. They find Bubba hiding as a scarecrow in a field and execute him. Immediately after this, they receive a call saying Marilee was attacked by a dog, and the only reason she's alive is because Bubba defended her. The 4 men are then put to trial for murder, and the judge rules in their favor, letting them go. The 4 men are then stalked by a scarecrow, dressed to look identically to the outfit that Bubba was wearing when they executed him. The men are then picked off one by one. After that, Otis, who's sort of the ringleader of the 4, murders Skeeter just to keep him quiet. And Otis is chased down by a huge tractor that is apparently operating on its own will in a field late one night. And then he is running from it and runs directly into a scarecrow that's holding a pitchfork. He's stabbed with a pitchfork and then dies.
You didn't bring that part up though, Bob. That is, you got one hole.
Yeah, well,
Did they try to
holes is holes.
trying to
Bob.
keep it
Okay.
brief. Trying to keep it brief.
Well, Bob, I mean, okay.
Skip to the end.
Otis is stabbed with a pitchfork, then dies. Then we finally see the Scarecrow moving about on his own accord, and he gives Marilee a flower, and they continue to play and be friends. Roll credits.
And there's a pretty strong insinuation at the end also that Mary Lee has some intentions with her ghostly counterpart.
I did
Did you
not
notice that?
pick up on that at all. Honestly.
Not okay. Maybe I think that sent the wrong message. Sounded like she was about to like just start having her ghost friend Merkfolk. She's like, I want to play a new game called the Chasing Game.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they play a game called the Hiding Game, and
Yeah,
I don't.
which
think,
led to the death of 4 men justly.
Yeah, I don't think Marilee has any
Just-
like real sinister intentions since all of the people that killed her friend.
Okay,
are
we
now
can
dead.
get to that when we
Yeah,
get there. But
yeah.
I think there's a conversation that's worth having there.
Marilee's fucked up.
Also, real quick, there's going to be some pretty strong parallels. You might have had some burning in your ears while that was being read off, because there's some current events happening right now that involve extrajudicial killings. And I think that it's going to come up, and we're not going to focus on it too much because this podcast is not equipped to deal with the heaviest topics that our generation has to offer. But it's unavoidable, and it's silence is violence time. So To the extent that we're going to be talking about that, we want to say we would support Black Lives Matter and all that bullshit. So fuck you. Otherwise, that's my stance.
Yeah. The plot of this movie just so clearly parallels some shit that's happening in real life, and it's one of those things that like we didn't plan this. It just sort of worked out time wise, and it would be silly to ignore it. You know,
Nicole picked it like what? A couple months ago.
Like literally 3 months ago.
And also, this movie came out in 1981, and even though it doesn't specifically deal with the idea of race, just like one of the things that Bob left out was one of the things that Bob left out is the fact that after they killed the man and then they found out that he was actually protecting a woman, in order to cover their ass, they like stage the pitchfork with his corpse as if he like tried to attack them, and so their whole defense rests on like, oh, it was self-defense. We told him to drop the pitchfork, like we were just trying to bring him into the law to the authorities, and that's how they get off on it.
So there's parallels is the long and short, and it's unavoidable. And so if you have any problems with that, please direct all of your hate mail to your mother's butt and give her my love. I've been there before.
I've been there. Damn.
Your mother's salad. Toss the shit out.
She makes a damn good salad, that woman.
Randy loves big salads.
Big thanks to Nicole for supporting us over on Patreon and picking this movie. It's I don't know. There's a lot going on here, and I guess we should go ahead and get into some of it.
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah.
So we got Cooters out of the wall.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
We've got some real Cooter contenders, and it's like also unignorable.
Yeah, it's hot like toward the top of the pile, you know?
We got Pappy O'Daniels in this movie as a pretty good Cooter candidate.
Is that the mailman, the Otis character?
Yeah. That's played by what's his name? Charles Durning, who was also Pappy O'Daniels of the famous Pappy O'Daniels Flower Hour and Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Interestingly, in that movie, there is actual Satan on the police force. Unrelated. Just thought it was worth bringing up. Anyway, Pappy O'Daniels is sort of like leading this lynch mob the whole way. Like he's eyeballing the fuck out of Bubba and Mary Lee's relationship at the very beginning of this movie. And later on, it's implied pretty heavily by Bubba's mom that she suspects that he has pedophilic intentions for Mary Lee, which doesn't really play out, thank Christ, on screen or anything like that. It kind of does. I mean, it does, but not in
his
the worst
desire
ways.
Does.
Yeah, it gets weird, but he doesn't.
So, anyway, but that's not really directly addressed until that's brought up by Bubba's mama later. But so Pappy O'Daniels is this mailman. He's got some generally rednecky friends who are ready for a lynch mob and who have been summarily deputized as volunteers with the local police, and they are literally singling out Bubba as a potential threat towards Mary Lee, despite the fact that their relationship is clearly very innocent. And so once they catch wind of this situation with the dog, where Bubba is a mentally challenged kid. I don't know if that's the proper thing to say now or not, but
he's 36.
He's 36 with the mind of a child, they say in the movie. That's their words. And so he's out there playing, and he's like pretty docile dude. He does not want to get out of line. He does not want to get in trouble. So he's out there with Mary Lee, and she's having to prompt him to do things that maybe a kid less scared of the consequences might do, like breaking into somebody's yard or something. So Mary Lee finally goes into somebody's yard to play in the garden. She's joking around, and the dog attacks her, and off screen, or like we see Bubba launch his ass through the fucking fence, and we don't see exactly what happens until he arrives at Mary Lee's mother's house, and the assumption is that she is dead and that she is that he had something to do with it, at least on the part of these people that are looking for a reason to murder him.
Yeah,
I do.
And see,
I wanted to comment real quick that the garden that Mary Lee like sneaks into was absolutely filled top to bottom with garden gnomes, like More
Yeah,
dark
it
gnomes
was.
than I've ever seen.
They did
before.
They did one of those like weird, like instead of showing the violence, they cut to the faces of the gnomes like, back to back.
Watching, yeah.
It's just such a like, it's like a great B movie, like TV movie sort of move where it's
Yeah.
like, well, we don't have the budget to show any real violence, so let's just show the gnomes' faces and
We got
imply
these
the violence.
gnomes
Yeah, the gnome
When
budget
they-
is not depleted yet.
through the roof.
When they first started this movie, I thought they were going to go like Of Mice and Men, like an Of Mice and Men route kind
I
of
kinda
thing.
thought
Because
that too.
the only thing that they did was they're picking flowers together, and she is showing him how to make like flowers, or she's putting them together to make a lei or whatever. And he crushes one. So because he's obviously a grown man. He just
Doesn't know
doesn't
his strength.
understand. He doesn't know. So I thought but they didn't. Like he never, if anything, I guess he just uses his strength to help her, to save her.
Mhm.
So that was a little bit of a swerve, oh, they didn't kind of go where I was expecting them to go, and that was good. I like this movie. Actually, I'm like, for a movie that is made for TV, it actually was pretty well delivered.
I agree. It was daring,
Yeah.
actually, I would say.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it took big risks. Like, for example, making murderous pieces of shit your primary characters that you're following, the characters that your point of view with for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Papio Daniels is chief among them, and you follow him around as he loses his goddamn mind watching these ghostly things happen to him.
He is
So
the biggest piece of shit ever. Like,
He's
massive
is.
piece of shit.
You know what? This is so. Yeah. Go ahead.
He takes his own sinister intentions and projects them onto Bubba, and then bitches about that to his simpler friends, and then gets them to band behind them to go kill this scapegoat. It's just like the most evil motherfucker ever. And he's a
And
mailman.
even like these are also too, like these are some good old boys. Like this is set in the South.
Yeah.
And these boys, like they're Southern. I have no doubt in my mind that at some point they have enjoyed a nice big bag of boiled peanuts. I mean,
penis.
these boys, they love some boiled peanuts.
Boys really like them boiled penis.
I mean, that's how Southern this movie is.
We talk about
I will say the Southern roots in this movie, they're pretty legit too. It's not like
they are
playing it for comedic effect.
Yeah.
They're
As a
pretty
boy
grounded.
Yeah.
As a boy from the South who has myself enjoyed a bag of boiled penis. I mean, that's
Every
Cajun
boy
style.
has. Every boy has.
this movie represents the South perspective pretty well, in my opinion.
Not too
the
far
way it
off.
portrays these guys. One of them's name is Skeeter, I believe.
Skeeter.
The mechanic,
I believe.
Skeeter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Harless is the guy with the wood chipper.
And Otis,
Yeah.
Skeeter, and Harless.
And Mary Lee and
Yeah.
Bubba.
and Philby.
Is that the
Philby.
other
That one's a little
Philby?
oblique. Philby. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Philby. That dude's got fucked over in the name department.
I want to put a request out. This is a little early for this, but it just dawned on me. I know we've got some people, like more than one, multiple people that listen to this show that are employed by the USPS. They are male men and women. I want you to call in and let us know your take on Otis. Weigh in on this. Is this dude? What? Just talk about Otis.
He's representing the mailman community very poorly.
He's tainting
We're
your
pretty sure
profession.
you're not into him, but
Right.
But does it anger you? Does it upset you, or is it playing into old tropes of the mad
Going postal
postman or anything like that? Going postal, all that shit. I don't know. That might be a better question for a mail carrier.
Call in
give
and let
a
us
call.
know if you also have pedophilic tendencies, so we can call the authorities.
Special guest next week is
Please
Chris
out
Hansen.
yourself.
Please let us know.
Provide
this is
your address too, please.
I believe that this is our first evil mailman. Is that correct?
As far as I can remember, yeah. I mean,
we're
we've
not
done almost-
reviewing Seinfeld, so yes, this is our first evil mailman. Yeah. So
yeah,
Otis, evil motherfucker.
and the other guys are not much better. They're just stupider, really.
Yeah, they're just kind of dumb.
And talking about how this movie does some things well is so there's four people. There's Otis And then the first two we meet are Otis and Skeeter, I believe. He's the no. Skeeter's the mechanic. Harless. We meet where Otis is just delivering mail, and they do a really good job in showing how this easily gets out of hand. In that, like, Otis pulls up and Harless is just kind of working on his machine or whatever, and we see how Otis manipulates Harless into hating Bubba, and how he would get him to go along with killing him, and he essentially like attacks his manhood, or like, he says, like, even Harless is trying to be like, if something happened, then of course Otis is before anything has even like supposedly happened, just from them Bubba and the little girl hanging out, he is already trying to get Harless to like go start some shit, and Harless is like, well, I mean, nothing's happened, like, maybe I'm like concerned about it because he is a man and it's a little girl. But I mean, like, what? Like, nothing's happened. And then he's like, oh, you wouldn't do anything anyways. And he's like, well, I mean, if something happened, like, like, sure, maybe I'd step. So it's almost playing on. It's weird to see because he attacks a little bit like his manhood, I guess, but it's also this sense of morality. Like, you're not going to protect a little girl. Oh, like, you don't have any regards for like
He's appealing to morality as a method of circumventing morality, which is fucked up. Obviously, some
deep manipulation shit, but also like some real manipulation shit. Like, that was ringing true to me. I was like, this is some devious shit right
this
here.
Guy knows exactly what the fuck he is doing.
Because as soon as it happens, as soon as it gets the call, like, oh my God, we think she's dead or whatever, which was a weird
in the fucking car.
Yeah, they're like, okay, but we don't see the other guys, but just between that interaction, we know where everybody's head's at. Otis is clearly like manipulating these people who think that they're doing right, who think that they're standing up for the justice of this little girl.
Because they trust him. They trust him as somebody who passes by that house every day, and he's looking through fucking binoculars at this little girl. Yeah. And that's how he knows all this stuff. I don't know if they know about the fucking binoculars, but they think if they do, then the assumption is because they trust him, that it's as in service to the idea that he thinks that Bubba is dangerous.
Yeah. And even after the fact, a couple of them, like Skeeter particularly, wants to come clean, because then they get this curse and like they start dying, and Skeeter's like, we need to come clean. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. And you still see that Otis is the one who's like, he came up with a plan to put the pitchfork on the body. Like, he's a devious motherfucker. But you see, but it's real though. The manipulation that he creates, it's not this grand scheme that you see in some like Mission Impossible or some shit. Like, this is like some real down to earth manipulation shit that like would really get people to do irresponsible things.
Yeah, if you have somebody's trust and you can convince them that somebody that they don't know very well is doing X, like, that's what gossip is. This is just on a murderous scale that this is gossip. Small towns gossip. They even say it in the movie. There's a small town, word gets around. Yeah. And like, that's what, but speaking of, that was something that Mama Ritter said, Bubba's mom, who
a badass.
We don't have a segment for this, but I suggest that we start one centered around the badass of this fucking episode, because that woman kicks the shit out of any other person in this movie in terms of being just stone cold awesome.
I agree.
I mean, she tells Otis comes to her door multiple times. The first time in searching for Bubba, who she has told to play the hiding game, quote unquote, leading to him being out in the fields. But she also tells him, "You have no right to be here. You're not the authorities. Get the fuck off my property." And they're like, "We're coming. We'll break in if we have to," making illegal threats even more. We've been deputized, so we can do whatever the fuck we want, sort of thing. And unfortunately, this time they have bloodhounds with them, so the bloodhounds lead them where they're going. But then later on, after the murder, he shows up at her doorstep again, because what happens later on is to deliver a package. Yeah, and he's given her this like shit eating, got one on you smile that makes me want to fucking puke. And Pappy's like, okay, well, he's like, he says some shit. He's like, oh, you're hanging out with Mary Lee. And she's like, you need to get the fuck out of here. I know what your real interest is. You're interested in that little girl. I've seen the way you look at her. And he immediately turns on a dime and starts walking away. And she's like, you can't hide it or whatever. Yeah. She's the fucking
He does
best.
that same fucking look. It does. It makes your blood fucking boil when he gets away with murder in the courthouse where the like lawyer calls him out like, I'm gonna find some evidence on you. And he does this cocky ass like,
it's like,
are
sorry,
they
just checking
serving
the time.
chicken down at the thing or whatever? Like, God, he's such a piece of shit.
Yeah, fuck.
Also, I will say another thing that this movie like did well, and it's really like effective and kind of tough. In a day and age nowadays where you can literally watch somebody fucking die, where they can be goddamn killed on fucking camera, and you can watch that shit. Mm-hmm. The murder scene in this, where you were talking about, where the dogs hunt him down and he's hiding in the Scarecrow, and you see his eyes and like the terror in his, like the way that they shot that, it was so effective to me. I was like, terrifying. Jesus Christ! Like, there's this poor guy. He's like mentally challenged. He's trying to hide, and they catch him in a very vulnerable position. He's hiding in a scar. He can't fucking move or anything. And they show his eyes, and like the terror of his eyes, like shaking his head no or whatever, knowing that he's like about to be fucking killed. They're all holding guns, and then they just execute him. That scene was like powerful for 1981, man. That's some bold shit.
And also, like, this is not unique to somebody with like a mental disorder. This is like, this character could have easily, and has often been in later movies that follow these same sort of rubrics or ideas. This is like, this could easily be a person of color. Like this character doesn't have to be a person mentally challenged. He could just be a friend of the little girl who is an other and is easy to scapegoat.
It's fear of the other. That's what this is about.
Right, yeah.
It's not just a normal white Southern male who, goes to church with us every Sunday or whatever. It's just fear of the other. That's what this really is.
It's fear of the other. It's fear of the other, and it's absolute genocidal self-interest in the part of Pappy O'Daniels.
Well, I was going to say
only once
he is able to capitalize on the fear of the other from the others. His is jealousy of the other, where you see somebody that you think is beneath you getting like what something in his mind is that you want. Like, oh, he's interacting with, so he's able to use his crazy manipulation skills. The other people might have fear of the other because like, oh, like he's
just general
and we don't know, and just general. His is fucking jealousy that like, oh, you're beneath me, like you're, and you think that you like can get what I want or whatever.
Like
the most recent, it's like, god damn.
The most recent example I can think of, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because it enters spoiler territory, but True Detective Season 3 covered something pretty similar at one point. And like, this is something that's still being discussed, but it's more focused on the racial aspect. So, I mean, it's the same old fucking story though. And with everything going on, I hated this character more than I've hated most villains that we've watched on any movie, just because it's at this time that I'm watching it. So well,
and it's so true though too. I think like I said, it's not this like crazy like demon lord taking over the world or stealing soul. It's like you see it and you're like, it's tangible. That's it. That's exactly how it happens. And I think that's such a good strength.
It's not even a metaphor. This movie. It is a reality.
No, it is. And you see it, and you see how easily it happens, and how they play it off. This movie does a great job, actually. Like, I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's for a TV movie of that era to be like, it's not rare for a TV movie to tackle issues because they get like minor funding because they're tackling issues. That makes sense for the time. But this is 81 when TV movies didn't happen that often. It was like Brian's Song, and that's the only one I can think of that was a made for TV movie at the time. And it's like, this is tackling some shit while also being effectively scary for with no budget. Like, that's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, because we get some kills out of this. So like each person kind of gets their due. With Skeeter is the only one who's like not killed by the ghost. So there's the 4 men that kill
Bubba.
They kill this guy, and it starts off with Harless. He's the guy who we initially followed.
Speaking of,
I was kind of surprised that Harless was the first one to get it because, like, we kind of spent them. I assumed he would be put in the Skeeter position. I thought, like, maybe they kill off like the random guys first. Or whatever.
Second week in a row with a wood chipper kill. They set that up.
It really is.
Like wood chipper will come back into play for sure.
Well, he for sure. If you see that's Chekhov's wood chipper for sure. But
band name
Harless. Yeah, that's actually a great band. I forgot what I was fucking saying, but this guy, he's played by, I was like, who is this fucking guy? Why do I know this guy? And it's because he played the, district attorney or the prosecutor anyway from My Cousin Vinny. You guys seen that movie?
Oh yeah. For sure.
Oh, he plays the guy who's like, going up against Joe Pesci. And I love that fucking movie. So I was like, why do I know this guy? Why do I know this guy? That's him. So once I figured that out, I was like, oh man, I really wish he was still around because not only was he better fleshed out than these other two Nimrods, but he also like is played by an actor who is like, who I've seen do other things that I enjoy. I'd like to see him do more. But anyway, yeah, you're right though. It's odd. And I think there's a certain sloppiness to some of the writing and some of the directing and things like that. Like because this movie doesn't have the budget, it still kind of falls into, like Rob said, there's a palpable difference between this made for TV movie and then something like Jaws or something. Like there's very clear delineation between those things, and it's partially because of budget, and I'm sure because of scheduling and because of all kinds of things, just little things that add up.
I have a question about Harless's death. I rewound it and watched it a second time because the way it happens, he like runs into his barn because it's late at night and his wood chipper just like cranks up on his own. So he goes to investigate and he like walks up to like the second story of the barn, and we don't see a Scarecrow at all in this scene, but he just falls from the second story into his wood chipper down below and gets killed. Yeah. So I assume the Scarecrow was there and pushed him, but we don't actually see that. Did he just like lose balance?
We never see the Scarecrow.
Until the very
We only
end,
saw the Scarecrow from a distance and they think that it's somebody playing tricks on them who knows what they've done.
Yeah.
But Harless says that this time it's filled with straw, though. So he must have gotten close enough to actually look at this thing, which is really interesting.
Well, that's because it's in the field, though, and it's not moving.
That's when it's in the... Right, yeah. My question is this, is like, why, as a filmmaker, are you not going to film that scene? That scene costs nothing. True. And it shows rather than tells. So I'm kind of upset that they didn't like show him investigating and allow us to see like, that's true, wow, yeah. So if this is more than just somebody fucking with you, then it is supernatural, which is where we end up.
He also says it's even got the bullet holes in the costume.
Yeah.
So it's super spooky. But yeah, we don't actually see like the Scarecrow kill people, but I mean, you know that's what's happening basically.
Yeah, right. And I'm okay with that. Because maybe they tried to shoot it and it looked like goofy, like it looks like a dude in a suit or something. Well, so I'm always
about that much doubt.
And it
at the very end,
solid,
which I think is I think that's a fair like reveal method.
Yeah. Like I said, maybe with it walking around and pushing people and shit,
I'm sure it would look stupider than what they had.
I wanted to see like a hand shove, or I just wanted.
Yeah. See, it could have been a ghost. It's like, it didn't necessarily have to be that he's in the Scarecrow all the time. I mean, it's like a.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right.
This is like you're pinpointing.
If that's the case, then at the very end, you wouldn't have shown the Scarecrow at all. She would have just been like talking to it still.
Yeah.
And that's post or something.
That's what's interesting to me is like this is kind of the pinpointing sort of like the confusion at the center of this movie, which we say like we're always the whole movie. It's like pretty good odds that it's Bubba as an undead Scarecrow. It's pretty obvious, but it's also they sow enough doubt to where I wonder if they had originally meant for it to be meant to mislead us into thinking it was somebody in the town, like the prosecutor or like Mama, or
that's
like
true.
The little girl, because they go through all those options and Otis, Poppy O'Daniels brutalizes each of them in turn in some way or another. And just in seeking the logical, rational explanation, if they had played it a little bit closer to the chest, I think that would have been a little bit more to go on in the middle portion of the film.
There's a way to watch this movie and read it as the girl was so traumatized by the loss of her friend that she legit did kill all these people and then hallucinated or imagined at the end of the movie that, you know, her Scarecrow friend is
up
her
until
friend,
the end.
you know?
I kept that possibility open because they didn't fully close it, and that makes me think like, well, what if they had done the same with all these other characters, and then just like they start with thinking it's Sam, the prosecutor, who badmouthed them, and they find out that he was somewhere else at the time.
I like that
and then they
read.
find out that.
Me
You know,
too,
like
actually.
I kind of wish they had done that a little differently.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it too, there's even a little more evidence that you could like fall into. The way she like sneaks out of her home, like you obviously see like what kind
She
of
gets
child she is. Yeah, like she's got like just kind of this dark aura to her, and she easily gets out of her house at night. We've seen her. She goes to check up, but she doesn't. Nobody tells her that actually Bubba was killed.
She speaks to the
And
dead.
So
and
yeah,
actually
she
says
goes and like sneaks out of her house and goes to Bubba's house. And so we see that she like is able to get out of her house and feels comfortable sneaking around at night. Like she's not scared of the dark or anything. So yeah, she totally could have killed these guys.
It was a marriage to the beast.
Yeah.
Mary Lee is
I
one
dig it.
badass
She's
ditty.
just
You know,
crazy.
You could even still read it that way if you really want to go like
yeah.
thinking this movie is probably a little bit more metaphorical than it is, and say like, okay, well that she set up like dummy scarecrows because somehow she knows what it looks. I don't know. There's
That would
holes
be
in
tough.
them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and because we definitely see them interact with the scarecrow at the end,
Yeah.
you could say that like, you know,
Yeah, I guess
like
she,
somebody's
she
driving
would
that-
then be driving the tractor at the end.
somebody's driving the tractor. You know, like
I like imagining that.
But I like leaving that. I like the idea of leaving that option open, and I think that if this movie were made today, it would be. That's my suspicion.
Yeah.
I also like too a spooky Scarecrow movie done well. You know,
Exactly.
because that is one of those kind of I feel like that's a very like American
Trope.
trope monster that we don't get a lot of anymore. I know we saw one in the Scary Things to Tell in the Dark or whatever.
Scary
whatever.
Stories.
Scary stories.
Yeah, that's Scary Things.
Harold the Scarecrow.
But yeah, so we got that one last year, but it's just it is something that you kind of forget about, I guess. But then you're like, oh yeah, scarecrows are fucking terrifying.
You know what's great? Well, that's the thing is like it's real easy to fuck up a scary scarecrow, and I think that's why most people like dodge it because like people have interacted with scarecrows a million times, like in rural America certainly, but even in other places.
Yeah.
So it's not like people are naturally. It's like the same as dolls. It's real easy to make it laugh worthy instead of fear worthy.
And it's definitely more of like a throwback monster. Like it makes you think of like more rural. You know, obviously that's nobody really uses a scarecrow anymore. So it's got that like old timey kind of feel too. It's like a throwback, which I like. Like
And
even though
this movie is a parable. Like it's sort of like almost like a biblical parable of not
It's
selfish.
It's a literal straw man situation.
Yeah, it is. It really, that's true. Nice. Very nicely done, Rob.
No,
we're so intellectual here.
Well, la dee da.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, this movie does have surprisingly kind of a lot going on with it.
I think this movie. What's interesting is this movie, like the same things that elevate it to something like more than schlocky, also are a detriment at some places. It just depends on where in the movie you're looking, because like the budget seems like it was a problem to some extent because this movie looks pretty cheap. But then I think that it also helped because we don't see much of that scarecrow. It doesn't cost much to make the scarecrow, but I think that budget probably played into why they didn't show a lot or even show a hand or anything like that. Like it's the Jaws effect where, the less you see, the scarier it seems. I don't know. Like, and then you've got things like some of the acting is a little loose. I'm guessing that they just didn't have time to get the take that would be perfect. You know what I mean? But then you have like these actors who are unknown actors that get to like eat up some of the screen time. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's where they had an opportunity, I think, to really elevate this movie into something like great, considering where it came from and like because of where it came from. But it kind of falls short in enough places to where it's a little bit schlockier than a little bit too schlocky to be taken 100% seriously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I never even with the schluck, I never found myself necessarily like rolling my eyes or
Yeah, me either.
I kind of did with certain things like Otis in particular. Otis is supposed to be like, yeah, obviously he's manipulative. He's a piece of shit. He's everything you hate. Ah, you're a monster! But he also is dumb as fuck. And let me explain why. Because this man is constantly putting himself in a worse position. For just one example, off the top of the dome here, he's at a Halloween party where he corners a little girl who was involved in a murder that he was almost convicted for.
Yeah, that's true.
And then chases her and is halted by a policeman who's holding a light in his face. That's the only reason he turns around. This guy cannot make a good decision to save his fucking life. Literally.
Well, at first he tries. Now I'll give him a little credit for that because he's like scolding the others. They show up at his house, which is a weird situation. What's like going on with that guy's
His living situation? Yeah. What the
he lives in a
fuck?
boarding house.
He's
I
living
think,
in a
is what-
commune?
boarding house.
Yeah, because he was talking about boarding house chicken. That was his big.
Okay.
Oh, the
It's-
boarding
I
house
guess
has
they
chicken
have
tonight.
they have like a cook that makes them
Yeah.
communal meals or something.
Well, I
It's
have
a boarding house. The owner of the
Okay,
house
okay.
at a boarding house
rents out rooms.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And
It's
she,
like think Hey Arnold.
she loads him down with some jam, son. Like that dude
Yeah, she does.
loves jam.
Only
Loves it.
because they needed to have a smash cut to something that looks like blood. That's the only reason.
Anyway, I was gonna say at first he's like, don't to the other people. He's like, don't show up at my house. We don't need to be
Yeah.
seen together. We don't need to be like
you're
we're
right.
conspiring. So he's
But
I
that
feel
leads
like
you to
he,
think
like-
that he's smart, but then he does like the dumbest shit ever. Like he starts getting like as soon as he starts getting paranoid, all bets are off. This dude loses his shit on every level.
Which
he murders his own friend, his
Yeah.
own
He just
lynchmate.
threatens everybody.
yeah.
Everybody.
He threatens little girls, not widows, excuse me,
Old
mothers
ladies?
of the deceased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His friends.
You have
He
to be a
shows up at her-
psychotic piece of
attorney?
shit.
He threatens.
Yeah.
He's a mailman. No offense to mailman.
Ma'am,
But
he's
the
a pillar of the
district
community,
attorney?
though.
Yeah.
God, why does this sound so familiar? Anyway, I'm
Well,
sorry,
I don't
go ahead.
know. He just like got he got cocky though because he got off on murder, you know.
Yeah, cocky
And
is cool.
even that scene too, like the judge, seeing the rationale behind the judge, like he's trying to take it seriously, like in a way, but that small town like mentality, like he talks to district attorney, he's like, these are men of the community. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and like in reference to who was killed, like
Right.
it wasn't one of their equals, you know, like,
Right.
yeah, we feel bad for this guy who's like mentally and nobody else would hurt him. But like ultimately, like, you can't discredit these men of the community. They pay their taxes and they deliver our mail. I mean, what are you gonna do? You
They
know,
deliver our
even
mail.
though
How
they
can you
all-
say somebody that delivers mail could
they all just like straight up shoot up this guy, but like you see the mentality behind like these trials and things, and it's like, well, I mean, can you prove that he didn't threaten them? Like, well, no, nobody else was there. It's like, well,
How
I
you to
mean,
prove
we
a
gotta let him
negative?
go. You know,
You know?
gotta let him go, even though they admit to just straight up shooting
the guy
this
straight
in
up
there.
lies too. Like, and it's not even like at first you see Papio Daniels on the stand in the courtroom scene, and he's just kind of like sitting there quietly and allowing the district attorney to say his piece and quietly being like, "Oh shit, I'm in a bad spot," you know, that sort of
Yeah.
tone. But then they ask him one question. The judge asks him one question, which was, and I might get this wrong. He
He's
asked
like,
him,
did you give him a chance to?
did you give him a chance to surrender? Right.
to surrender?
He did not at all.
Yeah.
And you know, like that, it's with one lie, just one.
Yeah.
This whole, all
Which-
four of these murderers get to then go home and celebrate.
Yeah, which is, and even just thinking about the concept, which you know this shit happens, but even like, okay, from a court of law, it's like you have the mother who said, like, get off of my property.
Right.
So they're trespassing. They're not law enforcement.
They were given they were volunteers for the police department.
Yeah, that is one. They said, well, the police asked for volunteers.
Yeah. She straight up is like,
to help look for this guy.
she's
Yeah.
like, you ain't the law. Miss Ritter is
Yeah.
badass.
Miss
She
Ritter
is.
badass.
God, the way that's another scene that was very fucking good is when Papio Daniels goes to her house and assaults her
Yeah.
and grabs her from behind in a rocking chair as she's doing her Whistler's Mother routine. And she screams. He's like, I'm gonna let your mouth go. You're gonna talk to me? And she screams, and then he puts it back and is like, now stop it. You stop that. And he's scolding her as she dies from a fucking heart attack or stroke. And he turns around. When he comes around, he's like, all right, there's no reason for us to be untoward to each other, despite the fact that I murdered your son. But he's looking at her. There's this great Dutch angle moment where it goes Dutch on him as he realizes exactly what he's done. He's not just killed the guy that he hated. He killed the guy he hated's mom and also his buddy who was his lynchmate. So this dude is going down the insane crazy man's path and quick. And it is cathartic.
He torches the house. And of course,
torches the house, which was unnecessary. But that's another reason he's stupid. He blows up the house. Why? An old woman having a heart attack is not news.
Right.
You just had to walk away.
That's true. Well, he knocked over like the table. It's like he can
set the table back
up. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he does.
Or just wipe shit down. Nobody would find her for days anyway, most likely. That's the unfortunate truth.
The next day, the police investigate, and of course, they don't find any foul play. But one thing I did notice, the police car is sort of in the forefront of the frame there, and it says Bogan County on the back of it.
Whoa! Shouts out to Shane.
County.
If you're unfamiliar, a bogan is the Australian equivalent of the cooter, and God knows this movie is littered with cooters.
Shouts out to Shang the Mang, who a hunter from down under.
The hunter from down under.
Shang the Mang, the hunter from down under. He clued us into the old bogan situation going on down there. So,
and he also informed us helpfully what a knife is. So thank you, Shane.
Yeah, always learning from Shane. I want to talk about the other kills real quick, even though they're not like super like bloody or like violent in any way, really. So we got Harless falls into his wood chipper. The next guy whose name I don't remember, he's
Philby.
Philby. He's barely a fucking character. I guess he's got like a cornfield and he's got this huge silo, and he sees like a shadowy figure in his house, and he runs into the silo and locks himself in there to hide from the figure. And the silo fills up with corn grain, and he like suffocates in the grain. And then what's Skeeter the
Which
mechanic.
Also, I believe didn't Jigsaw like steal that?
Yeah, that's
kill
a
or
Jigsaw.
something?
that's a late era Jigsaw move.
Fucking Jigsaw. Let's get original, okay? Hopefully Chris Rock has never seen this movie and he wrote some more original kills for Spiral.
Also, I always imagine, I know this cannot be true, but when I think of like corn grains, because they kind of like slowly pour in, it's not like you're all of a sudden just crushed by immense amount of corn grains. I always just imagine me just like climbing to the top of corn.
I don't know. I had that thought too. I was like, how does this work physically?
Now, I'm sure that's a like severe, like
that's probably a misunderstanding.
Yeah,
it is. I'm sure that you really could die by
it would
corn.
be very difficult.
Yeah, but when I imagine it, I'm just like, little corn grains. It's like saying, like, just let a little pour in and then get to the top, and let a little more pour in, and get to the top, and like, how would that kill you?
Can we also talk about this? This is.
Hang on. Let's finish the kill. Let's finish the kill.
Sorry.
So Justin is the man that can walk on corn grain. I want everybody to
the one true stains, walking on corn.
So the next kill, we already talked about how Otis accidentally kills Miss Ritter. Otis then also kills his buddy Skeeter, the mechanic. So at this point in the movie, Otis is convinced that Bubba is not dead, and Bubba is the one that's killing his friends one by one. So Otis and Skeeter go to Bubba's grave, and they dig it up to see if there is a body in it or not. And there, of course, is a body in it, and Skeeter kind of freaks out, and he's like, all right, that's it. There's some weird supernatural shit going on, and we got.
And then he starts talking about going fishing.
Yeah. Well, he says he's going to go to the cops and like out himself because he'd rather be in jail than be dead. So Otis is like, "Yeah, man, that's cool. We gotta cover this grave back up, and then we'll go do whatever you want." Skeeter jumps in the grave. He starts like filling it back in, and then Otis kabongs him on the head with a shovel, and then buries him in the grave.
Kabong.
El kabong.
That's a real Pappy O'Daniels move.
You know what? These stupid motherfuckers, if this piece of shit told me to go dig a grave and then like get in it, I'd be like, fuck you.
You will fuck yourself first.
Like the way that like Pappy O'Daniels even handles himself, like he's just like God damn, he's a sloppy motherfucker.
So the way that Otis goes out in the end, he's chasing merrily through a pumpkin patch, I guess, and there's this huge tractor of sorts that just turns on. There it is. Turns on and starts chasing him throughout the field, and he's so worried about what's behind him, he doesn't look in front of him, and he runs directly into the pitchfork that he planted on Bubba after he murdered him. Pumpkin. And that's how Otis goes out. That's pretty much all the kills in the movie. I just kind of wanted to touch base on them though.
No, yeah, and like honestly, for being low budget and being like sort of like suggestive rather than explicit, I think they're pretty fucking good. Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah,
you know, like and for the era too. Like you got to take those into consideration. Today, those things would be pretty bland, I would say, like in a theater setting. But for that time, I'm pretty impressed with how they did it. It wasn't. Here's the thing though.
Hang on. We're touching on the kills. Since I wasn't on the episode last week, wood chipper happened twice. Yep. A dude running into something sharp happened twice, and then a dude technically getting killed in a pit. I mean, you could say, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah, if you really want to draw that line, you can. But here's the question I have for all of us. Does death make Bubba much smarter? Because he schemes as an undead ghost in a
vengeance.
Way. I understand that.
Yeah, I know.
But like if we're to understand that it's his spirit running these things, first of all, vengeance is something that, you know, is not necessarily on a sweet, timid, like not fully developed
I know.
mind.
That's why it's like supernatural.
Yeah,
it's not him as a ghost. It's Karma Cola.
So the little girl's hanging out with Karma and not her friend Bubba? That's the question, because it's explicit that is Bubba.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's not building like jigsaw level murder machines.
But he's able to trap a guy in grain and then drown him in it.
I mean,
he already had that scheme.
The dude just like
he managed to lead him there.
I don't know that he let him there. The dude just like walks in there and then he's like, well, great.
He walks in there because because fucking Bubba makes a noise and makes him investigate and is hiding and shows himself in his house in the guy's house as he's about to walk back in. So the guy runs away, tries to get in his car. And that doesn't work because he's managed to remove a spark plug or some shit.
That's pretty nitpicky.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is a little fallacious, I would say.
I think it's very obvious that this Scarecrow specter just has the Lord on his side.
Well, I mean, I hope so. But
Soju?
Jesus.
No, Bob. Soju. Soju. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh my God. Do we have anything else we want to talk about before we rate?
There was something else.
Movie?
Let me see here. Oh, I mean, that was kind of the main thing is like, I don't understand like the Bubba character after death. That's a little bit odd for me.
Yeah. Because
he's really making pretty complex plans by my metric. But I don't know. There was something else. I just don't remember what it was. So if it comes to me, I'll bring it up.
All right. Well, let's rate this out of 5. Randy, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow?
I think I'm a little generally a little bit more positive to it now than I was at the beginning, but not much because I think I was pretty positive about it. It is still kind of schlocky. It's still a low budget movie and suffers from a lot of the low budget movie trappings. The look isn't super good looking, like, you know, like they could have played up to my taste. I wish they would have played up the Halloween a little bit more.
Pumpkins.
And then you got things like some of the acting is a little bit shaky, especially when you get to like the further out you get from the central characters, it gets shakier and shakier. They do a little bit of showing and not telling. But all that said, I think it was pretty effective. And I don't know if it was like, I don't want to attribute it entirely to the current events of the time. I think it's a pretty daring movie for being made for television at the time it was, you know, and it's like not necessarily intentionally tackling an issue like I mentioned earlier, but certainly like addressing or certainly involving an issue that is pervasive, which is, vigilante justice or small town justice or quote unquote justice, but at the hands of somebody who does not answer to any authority that we elect. So, or does and does it poorly. But all this shit kind of like coalesces. And for me, I think it's pretty effective. It's a pretty effective movie. And I want to give it something. I agree with Justin. This is kind of a hidden gem for me. I think that it's worth a rewatch, and I'll probably do it around Halloween time because I want to, add another movie to my playlist around that time. I like that. I think it works. I'm gonna give this a 3.5. 3.5.
Yeah.
This is like just revealing the truth, which is that I never decide until I finish speaking.
Yeah.
And then I usually change it. So
yeah, that's funny. Usually, especially since we've been doing this that long, once a movie's finished, unless the dialogue that we have really reveals some things, I usually am like, yeah, okay, this is what I'm feeling, and maybe I'll change like a half. Unless something crazy happens, but I'm usually pretty locked in once I'm done.
See, I mean, I honestly don't even really give it much thought until Rob asks me because I want to hear what other people have to say about it because it's pretty possible for me to miss shit or to miss shit.
And I'm open to changing. I don't want to commit
open
myself guy. I'm
oh yeah, most open guy I've ever met.
The scream fucking kills me. God. Fuck. 3.5 from Randy. Juice, how do you feel?
I was surprised by this movie, positively surprised. I think this was a solid pick from Nicole. This is what I like to see when we have the You Pick a Flick movies that otherwise would have never been on our radar, that people enjoy, that have influenced people maybe growing up, that are quality films that people allow us to watch. And I appreciate that. Those are kind of my favorite kinds. One of the things this movie reminded me of, this is kind of, I think it was, is it Christmas Evil, that one where we watched where the dude became the Santa Claus or whatever?
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me in that way, in the same way that movie was a movie I'd never heard of. It's an older movie.
Was that made for TV? No, it couldn't have been.
With a lower budget. But they ultimately surprised me, and that I was positively surprised by, and now kind of hold it in my mind, even though I didn't grow up with it, hold it in pretty high regards in my mind. I think I'm going to walk away with this movie in a similar way in my mind, is hey, yeah, that was a great hidden gem and really solid. I thought the acting for the most part was good. Old Pappy, man, he makes you hate that motherfucker.
He really
does a great job because that dude is a huge piece of shit. And the little girl does pretty solid, being kind of creepy and being kind of weird. And then of course Mrs. Miss Bubba's mom,
Miss Ritter.
Yeah, she kills it. And so the setting that they sit in, they didn't go too over the top. Like I said, I could see these boys going out and getting a big old bag of boiled peanuts. I knew this place, it felt real. I knew what was going on. And they stayed true to it. They didn't and what I mean by that is it didn't feel like a caricature,
right?
It didn't feel like a parody. It didn't feel like somebody who didn't understand this type of small town,
didn't feel like
Southern feel. Yeah, it felt pretty on point. So I respect it, and I'm glad this got brought to our attention. And it has some fallbacks because it's low budget and stuff like that. But I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well. I was pretty surprised and impressed by this film.
Nice.
Bob,
out
of 5, how are you feeling?
Hey, let me tell you.
Tell me all about it.
Pretty much on the same page with you guys. This is going to be one of those fairly rare instances where we all give the movie the exact same rating.
Wow.
That is more than fairly rare. That almost never happens.
Yeah, it's super rare. 3.5 from me. This movie is I liked it a lot after watching it, and the more we talk about it, just the more I like it. It just sort of solidifies how I felt about it. And
A delight to the senses, isn't it, my friend?
it is, surprisingly, and it's got like one of the most horrible villains like of recent memory that I've seen in Otis. And I do want to just like be very clear that Straight Chilling definitely supports the USPS and the Postal Workers of America. We just want to just be very clear and go on record there.
Hail Satan, and have a lovely afternoon.
Otis does not represent all of you, and we know that for sure. But it's just like such a solid villain in this movie. I love the character of Miss Ritter and just like how she's so there for her son, and just like, you know, in the face of adversity and just like injustice, she is just so fucking strong. And I fucking love that about her character. And unfortunately, like just how real this fucking situation feels, especially right now. And unfortunately, it rings true, which is a bummer. But it makes the movie feel relevant and grounded. Also, the character of Bubba was portrayed in a way that wasn't like a caricature of someone who is like, you know, developmentally challenged. It felt respectful and not like tacky or offensive. Really.
Yeah, I agree,
which
with
is
that.
easy to do, you know.
Especially at that time where it wasn't really like people didn't think of it as an issue.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, just across the board, I like what this movie's doing, what it's playing with, the way it handles the material. And you know, we've got a lot of the characters are just not really fleshed out, and it does feel like a made for TV movie because it was, you know, the production value here isn't super high. And I do wish they would have played more into the Halloween vibe. Just, you know,
I agree.
Extra decorations or, you know, whatever. Just make it feel a little more Halloween.
Pumpkins. You want more Halloween?
Yeah,
What?
I do. I always do.
Didn't this movie kind of feel a little bit like a really, really good modern Twilight Zone episode?
Kind of.
I kind of got that feel from it. I had that thought.
Yeah, I like it. Just in general, I like it. Thanks, Nicole, for picking it. 3.5 from me. That's going to put the aggregate at a 3.5. Let's go ahead and jump into the Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow.
Certified fresh to death.
I just want to say that's how you do a you pick a flick.
Yeah.
That's how you do it right there.
Don't
That's
punish us for giving you what you want.
Honestly, the vast majority of the U picks are pretty fucking solid.
No, yeah,
they
absolutely.
really are.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks to
But
Nicole and
We're not singling
everybody.
anyone out, but we kind of are.
Specific.
I will say, like, Michael was hanging out with us this Friday, and I was
Mike knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I was giving him some shit. I was giving him a little shit, but it's all out of love.
Michael.
And
yeah.
And we appreciate the support regardless.
We're
man.
honor bound, and that man knows how to treat somebody who's bound, apparently.
That is true. He tortures them relentlessly against their
Yes.
He, he's a dirty ditty, I bet.
will.
We're going to get arrested.
So, yeah, let's do the Rotten Tomatoes segment that we set up a few minutes ago.
Let's do it.
So what we do in this segment for the uninitiated, I'm going to be looking at the Rotten Tomatoes page for Dark Knight of the Scarecrow 1981, and I am going to give these two gentlemen a chance to guess to the best of their ability what percentage of the critics and then the users thought that this movie was a good movie versus bad. So 0 to 100%. Let's start with Bob on this one. Bob, what do you think the critics gave this movie? And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be tough, and this is why. The total critic reviews are 6.
Wow.
6 critic reviews.
Let me do some quick math.
So, what do you think?
I'll take a 50% on that, please.
50%. All right. Well, seems safe. Juice, what do you think?
I'm trying to 100.
Bob's going 16. Right in the middle. 69, I'm sorry.
And then I'll give it, if
69,
it's 6,
what?
I'll give it a 60%. Then
60%.
Yeah, 60%.
Ding, 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 a ring a ding, ding. Somebody got it right on, and that somebody is Bobby. This is a straight down the middle affair as far as the critics are concerned.
Ding-a-ling.
50%. No critic consensus yet. We'll see if we can change that. Let's get a grassroots movement to have all the critics of the country review this film. Let's do the audience score now. There are a few more of these. There's 912. So, Juice, we're going to start with you this time. What are you thinking?
912. I think if you're reviewing this on Rotten Tomatoes, you probably like it. But I don't want to go too high. So I'm going to say 65.
65. Bob, what are you thinking?
I'll take a 75.
75. Very confident. Well, almost another ringy dingy here. So close. 1 point off because the answer is 64%. Very, very close. You're going to take it on this one. 64%. And again, I say there's no, not a ton of reviews on here.
Take that.
I am going to, as I always do, read a negative review because they are the funniest. Let's see. It's not a bloody, gory film, mind you. It is, after all, a TV production. Yet it does imply a lot of grisly things going on. Well, that's not funny at all. God damn it.
It's just accurate.
Well, goddamn accurate critics. Why don't you be more bombastic, damn it? All right. Yes. That's all I really got for that.
Okay, sweet. Let's go ahead and jump into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
There's not a whole lot on this. So if you guys want, I could just read the Dark Knight trivia if you prefer.
Yeah, man. Dark Knight.
Just
forget
read some shit. I don't know.
Okay.
Dark Knight of the Dark Knight.
So hang on. This film was shot in 17 days. It was originally supposed to be 18 days, but one day was lost because of a fire.
Whoa.
It is very bizarre indeed.
I tried to pick out some trivia beforehand. And that's the first one that I had to say, when I read that, I lost my shit.
Why?
I don't know. I just thought it was like the way it was worded and so uninteresting, and it was like was shot in 17 days. It was originally supposed to be 18 days, but lost to fire. I was like, that's so boring. Like,
trivia.
Who took the time to write that shit?
Bob, was there any special features on the Blu-ray you got?
Yeah, because this trivia sucks.
I didn't investigate. I'm sorry to say.
Isn't that the whole reason you buy a Blu-ray?
What's even the point?
Let me go get it.
Oh my god, that's not going to be written on it.
Yeah, you're not going to.
What is he talking about?
And also, if you didn't watch it.
If you have not watched it, then you do not have the information.
Bob can't hear us.
It's like if me saying, I don't know much about physics. I'm going to look up a course in Harvard.com.
Let me go read the back of this physics text.
Yeah. Oh, yes. This covers all of biology, actually.
We've been giving you shit, Bob.
I know you have. You don't have to tell me that.
Hey, Rob. What's this segment called?
Where did Bob go wrong? Worrying his friends, sifting way too long through those Blu-ray bins, and it gets worse. He'll have no chance. He wasted all his dough on those DVDs.
All right, Bob. Let's see what your $17.99 or whatever bought you.
All right.
I was gonna say, rest in peace to the greatest straight chilling segment to ever exist. Go ahead, Bob.
R.I.P. So yeah, there's some stuff on here that had I watched it, I probably would have had some dope trivia, but I didn't get around to it. Bonus features. We've got new production documentary.
Nude production documentary?
Nude.
Holy
there's also a nude Q&A with Larry Drake, Tanya Crow, and JD.
Around here, that means big money.
There's literally nobody in this movie you would want to see nude.
That's not entirely accurate.
There's a nude.
I like mailmen. What can I say?
Nude rebroadcast promo. A nude behind-the-scenes photo gallery. Also, a director and writer commentary. CBS Network world premiere promo, and that's it. That's all you got.
Well, thank you for that.
Interesting. European style.
Also, there's a box quote here. It says, one of the best made-for-television horror films ever. That's from this dude from MSN. So, also, Vincent Price on the front box quote says, marvelous. I was terrified.
Dude, this has to be from the era of Vincent Price just absolutely shilling to death. That man learned how to make a buck in the latter part of his career.
I mean, gotta get paid.
Yeah, no judgment, just fact.
Yeah. Let's we gotta go hunting, right? Let's hunt some cooters.
Yeah.
Cooter of the week.
Yeah. This is kind of an easy segment.
It's gonna be a short segment. This one.
Explain the bullshit real quick.
Yeah. All right. We are hunting people, mainly cooters. Mainly.
There's got to be a better way to say that.
Well, I guess they're not always people. So,
that's true.
Cooter is a character type. This is exclusive to Straight Chillin' Podcast. This is what we bring to the horror community right here.
Except no substitutes.
Cooter is a character type. There are 5 points you can hit on. You have to hit at least 3 of those 5 points to be considered a cooter. But we are looking for Cooter of the week, and we are looking for some of the top cooters to put on our cooter calendar, of course. So maybe old Pappy O'Daniels will make the cut. So the 5 points are manipulation, sexual deviancy, smug arrogance, overall patheticness, and overall attire or look, general look, attire. Yeah. So Pappy O'Daniels,
hits
aka
all five.
Otis. Does he hit all 5 though? Hang on. I'm not quite convinced he hits all 5, but let's talk about each one. So manipulation straight out the gate.
Yes. Yeah. He's got it.
He manipulates some simple good old boys to instead of buying a big old bag of boiled penis, they go out and kill a man. So,
granted, it doesn't take very much in their cases, but
sure, it doesn't. Yeah,
it happens.
So he manipulation is high. Sexual deviancy. He is a pedophile. So he lusts after a little girl, corners her a couple times.
2
does some
of
weird
5.
thing. 2 out of 5.
Pretty indisputable.
Smug arrogance. Damn the smug motherfucker. The scene specifically when he gets exonerated for murder, where he could just be humble and be like, "Oh, I got off," but he's got like rub it in everybody's face and like I'm the shit, and the way he treats like his underlings, like beats them and kills one.
Ah, you're a monster! What the hell is wrong with you?
So very strong on 3. Overall patheticness.
Yes.
I think the one that really brings this one out is when he goes to the mom's
Miss
house.
Ritter. Yeah, he threatens an old woman. Fuck
He
that
threatens
dude.
an old woman and like gets so desperate he's like pleading with her, almost like Jeremiah said, like, okay, we're just gonna let this go or whatever.
Everything
like,
he does is in service to his pathetic nature.
Yeah. But I think that's where where he really kind of starts to break down. Like with Jeremiah saying, we had that moment where he offered to suck a dude's dick. So I mean that's pretty pathetic.
That's gold standard.
I feel like
in this,
pathetic.
If Miss Ritter was packing a wiener, he would have offered.
Probably, yeah. Like he essentially,
that's very assumptive, Rob.
Goes, and the way he does it is like, I'm gonna go and kind of threaten your life, but also beg for my own life. Like, okay, the debt has been paid. Won't you call she could do anything anyway?
Yeah, because he thinks she's the one. Somehow he thinks this old woman is terrorizing him after he murdered her son.
Yeah.
And he's very wrong, but he doesn't know that. So he thinks he's strong arming her into stopping, but he's just being the list of offenses is just growing and growing and growing for this douche.
So pathetic. Now, attire, Bob, you're going to have to present this one because as we said, we have many fans that are postal workers. So I'll let you present, because one of the pieces of trivia that I did not read was that Pappy O'Daniels, where was it? Which was never seen in anything other than his postal uniform throughout the entire film.
That's the
and
point.
His truck.
That's the whole point. That motherfucker wasn't always delivering mail. He's got to own some other clothes. What's his deal? What's going on?
It's something. It's a man in uniform commands a kind of respect with the community.
I want to hear from our postal workers yet again. Let us know. Do you just wear your uniform 24/7? You sleep in it. You threaten children.
I go to the ball game in my uniform.
A Halloween party.
You murder innocent people wearing it. Yeah, he's always wearing it. Let us know.
That's true. That's a good call.
He rolls around in a cemetery dirt. In cemetery dirt in his fucking uniform.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's provided for him because that's like his work uniform. Like, oh yeah, and then he's just too cheap to buy other clothes.
Maybe he just spilled jam all over all of his other clothes. They're all jammed up.
Even to court, he wears it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, did he wear his hat in court? I would love that.
That's pretty solid.
He wears his dress blues to court.
There's a very obvious correlation here, and it's to clowns. And the clown, like a clown in a normal clown in a uniform, is just somebody who's trying to entertain kids. But a murderous clown in a uniform is a piece of shit. Does that make sense to people? I'd also like to reiterate, in a uniform does not dictate what they actually believe and how murderous they are.
Straight Chilling stands with the USPS and all of its employees.
Yeah.
We just want to be very clear.
We send all our stickers by USPS up top.
Let us know if you are a postal service worker and you were charged with murder. Would you show up to court in your dress blue?
If you're a postal worker and you have been charged for murder, please call in and let us know the circumstances.
Also,
of
if
the
you
murder
are a
you
pedophile postal worker, please call us.
We just want to open up the gates
charged
to
with
all
murderers
and pedophiles.
We don't want. We're going to get a lot of calls.
I hope not.
Whoa, Rob! I'm making no assumptions. That's on you.
God. All right, so it sounds like Otis is solidly a Cooter.
I mean, you could talk about the others, but why? Like it's so clear that he was emblematic of the Cooter. There's no reason to look past him.
The others were, I don't know, just manipulated. It felt like
Cooter light.
Lights. Yeah. I don't know.
Aspiring Cooter demon hunters or Cooter demon leaders.
He hits pretty solid. He's a solid Cooter catch.
He's a Lieutenant Cooter.
Thank you.
Maybe a Sergeant Cooter.
To Nicole for bringing this to our attention. We are trying to fill out that Cooter calendar. You know, we only want the best of the best.
The beast of the beast. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Oh, is it
Got
social
your list
hour?
ready, Randy? What you been watching?
What have I been watching?
Hey,
well, I finally
See, I can host too.
That's not your job.
See,
Bob? Randy,
the
what
one
you been
true
watching?
Stains has taken over.
Whoa, Bob.
For starters, I have finally gotten a chance to own a copy of BioShock, and I have started playing it.
Whoa!
I like it a lot in terms of the look of it and everything, and even like the controls are still a little tough for me. I'm not very good at third-person angle sort of things. I just never really got into that genre. And I have a hard fucking time fighting any big daddy, and that's part
of the fun.
I need help.
Strategy.
I am terrible at that part of it, and I get impatient, so I'm struggling with that. But I am enjoying it, and God knows the look of it is so beautiful.
Randy. You got to hack everything and then lure them into that area.
Okay, well, that might help if I can get past the fucking room I can't get past. But so what else? I also watched a documentary called 13th on Netflix, which I've been sitting on the back burner for some time, and is very relevant to current events. It's about the prison industrial complex, and it's the amount of people that we incarcerate for private prison profit, and the amount of them that are specifically black, and how policing, or rather the justice system, is rooted in a lot of racism. That's the opinion of the movie, and it's certainly my opinion, so watch it for yourself. I recommend it. I also watched a movie that is not quite so hard-hitting in the social area, and that's called Velocipaster. Are you guys familiar with Velocipaster?
Familiar. Yeah.
Velocipaster. I'm not.
Velocipaster. I want you, just based on that title, to tell me what you think this movie is.
Velociraptor Pastor.
Yeah,
it's a Velociraptor who... Like a Velociraptor who is a priest?
An ordained dinosaur murdering folk who are not of the cloth or believers. Non-believers.
Okay.
Killing sinners. That's what he's doing. That's my guess.
Okay, all right. Up until that point, you were pretty on point. So this is a movie about a man. This is similar. It reminds me a lot of like The Love Witch, where it's like a pastiche of like B movies of the past, but it's very much more bombastic and more cartoonish. And the story, as I recall, it was a couple of weeks ago. I meant to mention it last week, so it's not so fresh as it was. But a priest at the beginning of this movie, this is tone setting for the whole movie. Okay, the priest goes outside of his church. He's saying goodbye to his flock or whatever. He's a Catholic priest. He's wearing his all his shit, and he looks over and he sees a couple standing by a car, and he goes, "Oh, mom and dad, hi!" And he's waving, and his parents are waving, and then he gets knocked back and an explosion sound happens, and he looks up over at the car, and it cuts to where the car was, and it's an empty lot, and it says explosion to be inserted or something along those lines.
Damn.
So that's what we're dealing with here. This is like if you took Love Witch and Wet Hot American Summer and placed a creature feature in it. So I enjoyed it a lot. It's extremely silly. It can get a little tiresome to it took me 2 sittings to watch it, not because I was uninterested, but just because it's a lot to take in. And I think it's a really fun fucking watch for like a group that's sitting around drinking, because it's low stakes. It's very silly. I recommend it. And then last but not least, in order to take my mind off bullshit, I watched Willy Wonka and watched a madman murder a bunch of children. So that was my week.
Sounds like fun. Juice, what you been watching?
So I haven't been watching a whole lot, but I did. I saw Wayne's World for the first time. I'd never seen Wayne's World. Yeah, never seen it, and it's like adorably like quaint. From 92. I was like, holy shit. I just never seen it. It's one of those movies I feel like, that was on Comedy Central and would like loop sometimes. And back when you had like cable and shit, like, oh, you see like segments of it, but I had never seen like the whole movie.
That's surprising to me.
Seen all of Wayne's World. Yeah. So, that was enjoyable. And like a blast from the past. And so the only other thing I want to take a little time, because I've been reminiscing we don't do the behind the scenes anymore, but, so I am moving out of my current place in Korea, which I've been here the whole time for 3 years now. And so I was going back and I was like, damn, like to the first episodes in Korea or whatever, which was episode 115.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Which was the Tom Cruise, The Mummy. Episode 115. Was my first episode in Korea. And so since then, we have done 155. So I have done more episodes in this house in Korea than I did at like Bob's house beforehand, which is nuts. And also in that episode, it was the debut. Credit to Rob for the birth of Soju Stains. So straight out the gate. Yep, straight out the gate, first episode, it was dubbed Soju Stains. It was when we were still workshopping the old Bish nickname as well. So he didn't even have a nickname yet still. So yeah, we have some of our classic episodes. You got your Halloween's 2018. You got your Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's all done in Korea, which is wild. So I'm moving out of here. I had to take all my posters down, all my sweet horror posters. So I was just like going back, and it kind of blew me away. 155. It's
a lot,
that's
man.
Kind of nuts. Yeah.
Damn, man.
Yeah, a little straight chilling history for you.
Let's hope the magic isn't living in that house.
I hope. I know.
It's all downhill from
because
here.
we sucked before then.
Yeah. And look, man, we don't have far to tumble, but there is a bottom, and we can go back if that goes bad.
A nice fat bottom.
Fat
We're gonna
bottom.
hit it. Hey, I've been watching stuff. Yeah.
What you been watching?
Tell us about it.
I watched that documentary on Shudder called Scream Queen: My Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, nice. About the Nightmare on Elm Street sequel.
Yeah, part 2, which is starring Mark Patton, whom at the time was a closeted gay actor in the 80s, and that was sort of like his breakout film. He had done some work before then, but that was sort of the movie that turned him into like a movie star. It was a sequel to the massively successful original film directed by Wes Craven, and the documentary is essentially just like about him making that movie and then turning into like an overnight star, and then also being a closeted gay actor, but the very obvious undertones of that movie being like about homosexuality in the 80s. And it sort of like gets into his experience working as a closeted gay man in Hollywood, and gets into like a bit of the AIDS crisis and how that affected his own personal life. And, he eventually moves to Mexico, and it just sort of follows his whole trajectory and how he kind of totally fell off the map. But then, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 back in the day was not well liked. But then more recently, it sort of came back and started getting sort of a cult following, and people sort of heralded it as being this really solid sequel, and also like a really solid gay movie. Like, it was seen in one perspective, and then many years later it was seen in a whole new light, and he was able to sort of come back and make peace with his experience in Hollywood. And it's like
we saw this in person. We saw a screening of this movie, and
he was there to talk about it.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, of the movie, not of the documentary, but yeah,
the movie. Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry. Of the actual. Yeah,
that was like at least 2 years ago now. 3 maybe.
Oh, I was. Yeah, it was probably like 4 years ago because I was in town.
Yeah, that's when they had just started getting this documentary off the ground, I believe. And a local filmmaker, Samuel Farmer, I think, like actually it started that night when he was in town. Like, he started talking to him about this documentary, and I guess he started making it and then gave it to some friends in California. The directors Roman Chiminetti and Tyler Jensen, but the title sequence of this was still made by Sam Farmer. He's got a credit for the title sequence, anyways.
Nice,
which is awesome, which is solid. But yeah, it's a super interesting story. It's fairly sad and tragic, but it definitely has some nice closure on the end of it, and I totally recommend watching it. It's on Shudder, Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. Check that out. Other than that, I watched Underwater, which was that like aquatic horror movie from earlier this year. It's starring Kristen Stewart and some other folks. TJ Miller is in it. It's like a creature feature. It's like Alien, but underwater, more or less, and less effective, less nuanced. It was fine. It's an action movie where you can't see half of what's happening because the camera is going fucking buck wild and everything's super, super dark because it's underwater. It's like they're in the Marianas Trench and they're drilling even deeper than that, and of course they come across some creatures that were long forgotten, and some of them look a little Cthulhu-y and whatnot.
Cool.
The creature work is cool, but it's all right. I'd give it a light recommend. Casually stroll.
Was it worth a purchase, Bob?
I wouldn't recommend buying it. Yeah, give it a rental. Rent it for a few bucks. Watch it at the house. It's all right. You could do worse. That's pretty much what I've been watching. That's all I got.
All right.
Yeah. So we've got one more segment to tackle, getting into the Hotline Scream. If you're listening and you'd like to call and leave us a voicemail to be played on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. This week we have 2 voicemails, both from Corey, but they're fairly short. So let's go ahead and listen to what Corey has to say.
Bob, you son of a bitch. We've broken bread together. We've lent movies to each other. And then you up and betrayed me. I can't believe you made me sit through shit, what was it called? That Holocaust movie? That Cannibal Holocaust? That was horrible. Why would you do that to a friend and a brother? That's awful. I will never forgive you for that. But I do thank you guys for doing all of these Joe Bob drive-ins. They've made my Friday nights very interesting and have introduced me into a whole new world of horror that I was previously happy to never know existed. But here we are. Hydraberg, I love how much thought you put into Tetsuo the Iron Man the other night, but I do think the Japanese just out-Japanese you nonetheless, man. You put a lot into that, and I feel like they just throw it out at the end. Straight chillin', you guys, you keep doing what you're doing. I love you guys. Take care.
All right, and here's the second one.
Yeah, so I forgot the whole reason I called earlier. A few weeks ago, you guys asked the question, what film have you walked out of in theater? And you guys hit the nail on the head. I remember being so upset by Gran Torino. I left Gran Torino and went to watch My Bloody Valentine 3D without 3D glasses. And let me tell you, an extremely blurry film was so much better than Gran Torino. So kudos to the people who don't like all of Clint Eastwood's work.
That was pretty good.
Damn, that's a bold statement right
That is
there.
bold, man. I appreciate that. I haven't seen this movie, but I feel like I'm missing out on some good like rage fodder.
I couldn't make it through that movie. That movie was some dog shit. And the thing is, I kind of use it a little bit as a gauge for like who a person is, because I've heard other people like praise that movie, and
I have
it
too.
always like makes me like raise an eyebrow, like, really? Like, you like that movie? Okay. I kind of put you in a category in my mind.
Oh boy, not the category.
But a blurry damn to choose a 3D movie with no glasses.
Pretty bad.
I love being incontinent.
That's dedication, man.
It is dedication.
Did the theater only have 2 screens? Like, were there no other non-3D movies
just
that you could
go
go
out.
to?
There wasn't like a Medea or something playing, anything?
It was in 3D. Medea 3D.
Medea 3D, I would see that shit.
Yeah. Also,
But, I mean, I've been saying it, hashtag boycott Dick Bibbs, that Cannibal Holocaust. There's no excuse for that.
if Corey is that offended by a movie, he would not have forgotten the title of the movie. Okay. Also, I'm not programming that shit. It's not my fault, Corey.
It's funny
Just
that
follow in orders, right, Bob?
That they covered Tetsuo. We covered that back in the day. That was a Randy pick.
Yeah.
That was a wild movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that thing. It's completely singular as far as I've seen.
Except for the sequel.
Well, yes. It's a singular property.
Right. Thanks for calling in, Corey. Always good to hear from you, even if you're bitching me out for something I have no control over. Again, if you want to call in, leave us a voicemail to be played on next week's show. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. We want to hear from our male mangs and male women's. Want to hear from
Male
you.
Carriers, I think.
Male people.
Womings?
Male womangs. Yeah. I don't know. We asked like 10 questions throughout the course of this episode, none of which I can recall right now. Would you
give us a call? Say hi.
Just say what's up. Would you wear your dress blues decor?
You want to be famous, don't you?
Oh God, it's the implication.
Oh
no!
Call in. Let us know about male life and stuff.
What's the craziest thing you delivered? Do you sift through people's mail?
Do you ever just open a package?
How many coupons do you just kind of nab off the top?
You ever you get like a package and it's like vibrating and you're like, this is definitely a vibrator, but
also what happens if there's like you're trying to deliver mail and there's like a deadly dog in the yard? How do you get around that shit?
Do you mace
kill
it?
them? Do you drug them?
You got mace?
Cujo Mail Edition. Let's hear it.
We've got questions. We hope you have answers.
You just say fuck it and drop the mail in the gutter, or
or steal it.
Oh, never made it. Sorry.
You just maybe there's a check inside. Maybe you can.
Have you ever just decided you wanted to get off work early and just threw a bunch of mail in the trash? Oh, no mail today.
Delivered.
All of this is for Pennywise, so bye.
Straight in the gutter.
Do you ever boil your dress blues to get them real clean? That's the only way.
What is
you can
happening?
really get 'em
Where are we
clean.
going?
We got a lot of questions.
We've got a lot of questions, most of which do not make sense.
How do they live? How do the male people live? We want to know.
How's it feel to be on top?
You're driving on the wrong side of the truck. What's that like?
yeah, that's gonna be wild.
What are you doing?
Interesting. European style.
How long does it take to get comfortable doing that? I'd be scared.
Yeah. Do you get confused? You ever wreck it? You wreck your truck? You ever wreck it?
Yeah.
You guys are like at this point you're basically doing a Clint Eastwood empty chair monologue. There's no one to answer right now. Let them call.
Yeah, we're going to be back next week with a brand new show as always. We're going to be talking about a new release. This movie is called The Vast of Night. It is on Amazon Prime currently.
It's not the movie I picked.
What are you talking about? It's not your turn to pick a movie.
I know it is the movie I picked.
The consensus choice amongst the Straight Chilling crew. We're going to try and squeeze in a new release, even though theaters are closed. The Vast of Night. Slam your eyeballs into it. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. On Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join the Slack channel daily conversations, hit me up on one of those social media outlets and I'll send you a link to join in on the conversation. We talk about the movie of the week, TV shows, music, whatever else we want to talk about. Check out our YouTube channel. Joe Bob Fridays, get in on that. Also, don't forget, 2 weeks from today, we're opening the You Pick the Flick. Start thinking about what movie you're going to pick for us to watch. That's all I got. Make it Gouda. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Black Lives Matter!